Hey, baby, what you know good? I'm just getting back what you knew I would. Boys, when will it end? When will people start getting together again? Things will not get better. The newspaper print. What else is new, my friend? Besides what I read, can't find no work, can't find no job, my friend. Money is tighter than it's ever been. Woo! Hey man, I just don't understand what's going on across this land. What's happening, brother? Hey, what's happening? I want to know. Things still get down where we used to go with things. Now more come when the pity. Do you think they have a change? And tell me, friend, how in the world have you been? Tell me what's out. I want to know what's in. Woo! What's the deal, man? What's happening? What's happening, brother? What's happening, brother? I want to know what's happening. What's happening, my man? Been gone a long, long time. Now I'm back on the scene. What's happening, brother? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, brother? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Oh, baby.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Conrad. I'm your host, Reverend Conrad Tillard, and as always, we come to you not from the right, but from the left. We come down the middle from a common sense perspective rooted in the sage wisdom and the mother's wit of the African American community. It is a privilege, once again, to be back in front of this microphone here, and I hope that you can hear me well, and I hope that on today you will be inspired, you will be informed, and that we can continue on to develop a relationship, the viewers, those of you who have never tuned in to Conversations with Conrad, formerly on a radio station in Harlem, now a podcast. It gives me more flexibility in my busy schedule. I'm able to do it when I'm able to do it, and you can listen to it at any time you want. And so we will produce the content. You can tune in, you can stop and play and analyze what we're sharing with you. I got a wonderful note from a brother the other day, and he said, "Your voice is needed. We miss you. We need you." And I agree with that. But I would just ask that if you need me and if my voice is needed, then the first thing I want you to do is like, subscribe, and then I want you to tell other people about this podcast. I want you to talk to people. If you live in on the West Coast, I want you to share. Let them know there's a brother out of New York City that offers a different perspective, that's giving us something that we don't often hear. If you live in the Midwest or the South, I want you to share with your friends what it is that we do here on Conversations with Conrad. And of course, it's not a small feat when somebody who is Black comes before you and says that I don't come to you from the right. I don't come to you from the left. We are such an ideological people. And either people are shoveling down our throats the left wing lines of the Democratic Party, of the progressive movements, or we get Black conservatives who can be very doctrinaire as well in offering their assessment. But I don't come to you from either perspective. I come to you from a centrist, a common sense perspective. And I'm going to tell you what your grandmother used to tell you, what your grandfather used to tell you, because even though I've been to some of the finest schools in the world, I'm convinced that the heaviest people that we have are our ancestors, mother's wit, and the sage wisdom of our elders. So you help me in sharing the word. You help me in getting the word out so that we can inform African Americans and move us to a different place, a more analytical, more intellectually agile, a less emotional perspective, because you can't do politics. You almost can't do life being controlled by emotions. You have to step back. You have to have some distance from things in order to be able to think rationally. Today's show, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, the news is raging all over the country with news of Donald Trump's cabinet that's shaping up. And we're going to get to that toward the end of our show today. We're going to talk about the civility of the meeting between Donald Trump and Joe Biden on yesterday. And while Black people are talking about taking Valiums and Prozac, while Black people are angry, and we're talking about how our children are crying, and we're talking about how we're not going to speak to each other. The principles in this, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, the vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris, interestingly enough, Trump's opponent in the race, was not present at that meeting, but Jill and Joe sat down, and it was by all accounts, a very civilized meeting. We'll get into that a little later. But I want to start today by letting you know, I'm a minister vocationally. My training is that of a minister. And one of the very, very well-known texts of the Bible, Jesus was talking to his disciples about the Pharisees one day. And in Matthew 15:14, he says, if the blind lead the blind, then both will fall in the ditch. And I think that what we have in terms of Black leadership in this country all too often, particularly in the media, that's what I want to focus on today. Black folks have become too dependent on the media. We have become so dependent. It used to be that we were dependent on Black ministers, our churches, our community-based organizations, and we were dependent on the ethics of our own community. But in recent years, in the last 20 some odd years, with the advent of 24-hour news, we've got a lot of people who have become dependent upon information through these cable news outlets. Now, these cable news outlets, they look like news stations in terms of the traditional news that mom and grandma and grandpa would have had. They would have sat down in front of that black and white television with that those rabbit ears and that aluminum foil on those antennas, and they would have sat and listened to Walter Cronkite. And Walter Cronkite, as far as any journalist in America, was a man that portrayed as much as he could. Absolutely no personal opinion about the news that was written. Now, of course, even in that day, the news was written in a way that created a bias, but it was far more subtle. And Walter Cronkite felt it was his obligation to present the facts, let the viewers sort of make their own opinions, but present the facts. Now, the first thing Black people need to understand is that when you turn on and tune in to MSNBC in particular, let's start there. You're not looking at a news station in the traditional sense that you've known news stations. Most of the shows are very opinion based, okay, and that is perfectly fine because in any newsroom or on any radio station, any news outfit, you have basically two divisions. You have the news division, and that's hard news. Those are journalists, pardon me, reporters, people that are governed by professional ethics. They get out and they go and get the facts and they report the facts, okay? Not their opinions, objective presentation of the facts. Both sides of any particular issue, and there are always many sides of any issue. That's the newsroom. But then there's the opinion side. When I worked at WBLS and WLIB here in New York City, under the leadership of the chairman, Percy Ellis Sutton, Wayne Gilman ran that news department, and he was a true professional journalist. He and Eric Williams and others. When I was at WWRL, Donna Wilson is a consummate professional, news professional. But there's also the opinion side. Imhotep Gary Bird, who does an Afrocentric show, is not feigning any objectivity. He's pro-Black. When I did my show, and when I do this podcast, I'm a little more objective in doing this podcast because I'm trying to educate. But my point is, when you turn on Fox and you listen to Sean Hannity is not a news person. He's an opinion person. Opinion persons write columns on the pages of newspapers or editorials. Those are opinions. And we have to be able to differentiate between opinions and facts because opinions are just like yours. Everyone has an opinion. And there's no opinion that is any more empirically valuable than yours, except one that you decide that you agree with. And so on MSNBC, they have this news set, but to a man and to a woman, these folks are very opinionated, and their bias is very left of center. Very, very left of center. And of course, in America, they're typically left. There's a left-leaning perspective, a right-leaning perspective, and then one in the middle that's called a centrist perspective. Now, there are all kind of variations and combinations on that. Right, left, center. MSNBC is far left of center. In my 60 years of living, I have found Black people to be very much not on the right. No, we're too compassionate, generally speaking, too merciful, too bountiful, too giving, too loving, to be a rigid right-leaning. But we're not, I don't find us to be given, for the most part, to the left. Because typically, Black folks have too much common sense to go for some of the proposals on the left that can be way out. We're usually right down the middle. Here's the difference. With the advent of 24-hour cable, you basically have Fox, which is more right-leaning, and then you have MSNBC and CNN. And what I've noticed is that Black seniors, Black young people, Black middle-aged people sit every day under typically MSNBC and Fox and CNN, and we're just getting lulled to sleep. If you today were shocked that Donald Trump won the election, if your children are crying, if you've been depressed, then that's because you put all of your confidence in a far left-leaning media outlet that's really a silo. And what happens when you live in a silo is that everybody thinks the same. And you just hear the same thing over and over and over, bouncing off against the wall, going into your ear. It's an echo chamber. Everybody's saying the same thing. And they just kept saying, Trump is so stupid. Trump is a convicted felon. Trump is a criminal. Trump is a liar. Trump is a crook. And if you sit up and listen to people say that for a whole year and a half, ever since he's been running, really since 2020, January 6th, overthrowing an attempt to overthrow the election denial. If you continue to sit under that every day, then you will think, like a lot of people thought, there's no way this guy can win. Then, of course, when you add to that, once Kamala Harris entered the race, when you sit in these liberal circles, they're, pardon me, they're very feminist oriented. And, I guess for many people, they just assumed that, Kamala Harris would beat the crook, would beat the lowlife, would beat the scoundrel, the felon. And of course, after her great first debate performance, I can understand how people really, really felt that she had a chance to win. The problem is when you only listen to one side of the coin, you are not hearing the overwhelming anger, disappointment, rejection, and frustration of American people who felt that the Biden administration from day one had gone astray with its border policy, with its energy policy, and of course, with the culture wars. And so they felt that the price of groceries was too high, the price of everything was too high. And when you look at all that was going on with the Biden administration, they had been talking for a year or more about replacing Biden with Donald J. Trump. But you didn't hear that because you can't bear to listen to Fox. You can't bear to read the Wall Street Journal. You can't bear to listen to sources that don't reinforce what it is you believe. And that's not the way you can do politics. That's not the way you can live. Truly, to be an intelligent person, one has to understand varying perspectives. See, when you're not understanding varying perspectives, you say, the only way to please God is through Jesus. Or the only way to please God is through Islam. Or the only way to do this or that is when, and life just doesn't operate that way. There are people with different perspectives, different experiences, and it's important that we engage those different experiences. So here's my point. Many of you were devastated by the election results, and many in the media, in fact, the people that you put too much faith in, as far as I'm concerned, were devastated as well. I want to play a few media clips, and I want you to engage with me for a moment. Some of the things that were being said by those in the left-wing media, and this is very, very important. Let's spend some time with this, and then I'll. This is Dr. Eddie Glaude from Princeton University. This is now a famous meltdown. But let's listen.
Eddie, the fact that we were all so blindsided by the election, does that tell us that identity is silencing people? Because even I can see in my social media feed in the last couple of days, all these people are suddenly like, yeah, that was my guy. We're hearing stories in the suburbs the day after the election. People are now putting Trump signs up.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, but let's be clear, Trumpism is a form of identity politics.
Amen.
We don't want to say that this, my beautiful white skin, remember? That's what he said?
Yes.
Tucker Carlson saying in Madison Square Garden, we have been given permission to call BS on this wokeism stuff. We will no longer be made to feel guilty. That comes straight out of, we will not be replaced. That came straight
out of Trump, who didn't listen to the rally and who don't know who Tucker Carlson is, but who are super unhappy about inflation, that they can't afford their lives and they voted for him. And they're not buying into fascism.
I get that, but I think they have an idea, though, that whenever the incoherence of the country comes into full view, the tricky magic of falling into place, falling behind a notion of whiteness that could hold off all the reason why all hell is breaking loose economically on this scale and redistributing resources from deserving people to undeserving people, right? So there's this sense, right, that whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't. All of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me. Right?
Eddie, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and
they voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted felon, a guy who said we can grab the. They voted for this guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying life's not fair. I'm not doing well. My son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else. And
I love you to life.
I love you,
but I do not believe that. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that. They voted for a crook, a person who they know is stealing from, just doing everything to undermine the so-called country that they love. And then they're telling us the BS that it's economics. We know that's not true. We know it's not true. And we got to raise our.
All right. That's Eddie Glaude, Princeton University Black Studies professor, on with Stephanie Rule. And interesting thing about that panel is that everybody on that panel lives in either New York or Princeton or somewhere on the Eastern Seaboard. Each of them are either an academic. There's a sister there who is a professor at Fordham, or a media person, a guy from the New York Times, and Stephanie Rule. Now, here's the problem. And I know Eddie Glaude. I've known him for 40 years, 35, 40 years. I respect Eddie Glaude. But the problem with academics is that they have a field of expertise, and as long as they stay in their field of expertise, they tend to do fairly well. When they get outside of their field of expertise, that's when they get into trouble. And I would say that if Eddie Glaude cannot believe that the American people, black, white, brown, or otherwise, voted this incumbent party out because the economic position is too bleak for people in America, then he needs to come off Princeton's campus more and not just take the train or a private car to MSNBC studios in Midtown Manhattan. Okay. He needs to go to other parts of New Jersey. In fact, go about 8 miles down the road from 18 miles down the road from Princeton to Camden, New Jersey, and look at how the people are living. Talk to them. You won't find it hard to believe that 25% of blacks voted for Donald Trump because bread is too high, eggs are too high, the rent is too damn high. Okay? If you don't believe it, cross over the Delaware River into Pennsylvania, and don't just stay in the areas close to the Philadelphia suburbs. Don't stay in Bucks County. Go out to Pittsburgh and central Pennsylvania, places like Coriopolis, Holmesdale. Go into some of the areas where blacks live and white working class and poor people live, and see the Rust Belt, pardon me, how the economy and opportunities have dried up for those folks. And tell me they are making their voting decision just based on race. You see, this is the problem with Black people right now. We have too many people speaking whose lives are not vested in the work of African Americans. And I'm speaking now about this professorial class. And it started with Cornell West and all of these little copycats around the country that want to be these esteemed public intellectuals. They want to be experts on Black people. And very few of them, if any, have actually ever worked among Black people. Now, I understand that Professor Glaude's got his perspective, and his perspective is I guess, as legitimate as mine. But I want to push back on that. See, the country has been pretty good to Professor Glaude. Okay, when you rise up from Moss Point, Mississippi, and you head the Black Studies Department at Princeton University, you should not be telling other young people that the country is a place that's growing darker and darker. And in fact, all of these, many of these professors are really pushing socialism. And they're pushing a type of socialism that is undermining our kids. They don't understand the opportunities that are in front of them. We have opportunities that our grandparents never had, our great-grandparents never had, and the young people of today have tremendous opportunities. Is it easy to succeed? No, but they can succeed. Professor Glaude is proof that they can succeed, and not only they can succeed at the highest level of life in this country. And no professor, no well-respected, highly regarded professor teaching at one of the premier institutions in America should ever say anything that could be interpreted by young people that America, it does not offer them opportunities. And so I resent that. I think it's sad that a 50 or 60-year-old Black man, I think he's about my age, has to be told by a white woman, hey, people voted their economic interest. And then he doubled down and said he didn't believe it. And I will tell you, my friend, you don't believe it is because you're too disconnected from everyday people. It has become almost, you and many of these other professors, you almost become a caricature. West, in many ways, is a caricature. And it's a nice gig, but the fact remains, when you step forward and pretend to speak for Black people, or you become the expert for Black people, you should have some concept of what they're saying. 45% of Latinos did not vote for Donald Trump because they're white supremacists. 45% of Latinos did not vote for Trump because they want a racist America. No, they voted the party, the incumbent party, out because that's the way American politics is. People will give you 4 years. If they don't feel that their condition is better, they will vote you out. And that's what happened in this race. And we don't need to create this sort of doomsday perspective. We don't need these dire predictions. We don't need to frighten people, because that's all MSNBC has done for you in the last 8 years. They have helped make you neurotics. They have helped to increase your anxiety. I remember a long time ago, it was about 13 years old, I was in a barbershop in DC, and I heard some older men say, this is right around the time Ronald Reagan was coming into office. And they said, we're going to be in trouble when Reagan comes in office. And I listened to them. I guess I didn't fully understand all that they're concerned, all the reasons they were concerned, but I know I had a visceral feeling in that shop that we could literally end up back in slavery. I felt bad. These were everyday folk, and they had come to that conclusion. And so I understand it's a part of what has become our culture. It is often become the simple explanation for everything that doesn't go in the way that we believe it should go. But what I've come to understand is that it's very debilitating. It causes us in many instances to be defeatist and to give up the battle, even when victory is sort of right at our fingertips. And so I would say to you, and I think we all can agree and understand, that we have survived every administration, no matter what administration takes the White House. Every 4 years, it changes. Sometimes they get 8, sometimes they kick it off to a vice president and they'll get 12. And Black people have prospered, we have survived, and we will continue to do that under President Trump. And so don't let anyone, especially someone doing as well as Eddie Glaude, to make you think that there's no opportunity for you in America. And don't let them do that to your children. Let me say this to you. These young people today, and I teach at City College, so I'm constantly challenging my students. I keep asking them, Joy Reid made a statement this week, and I'll get to Sister Joy Reid in a second. And she said that the immigrants, she mentioned Latinos, I guess the 45% that voted for Trump. She even mentioned African immigrants that are in her family. And she said, they come here and they want to stand with the person with the biggest flag. There's a lot of anti-Blackness in their analysis. And as she talked on and on, again, it just highlighted how intellectually either dishonest or underdeveloped these people are. Because let me say this, my friends, do you think anybody that woke up in a foreign land, that decided they wanted to come to the United States of America, even if that meant coming legally and leaving their homeland, leaving their mother tongue, leaving their culture, and they wanted to come, or someone who's coming illegally and they're about to embark upon a perilous journey. They've saved, they perhaps put themselves in debt to cartels, but they all come because they want to get to America, the land of opportunity, the place where they believe their lives can improve and be made better. Those are immigrants. They don't come to a country to create problems. They don't come to a country because they believe it's an unjust place. Now, we have to teach them when they get here that for native-born blacks, okay? The reality of our situation and the history of our situation is very different than immigrants. We have to educate them about that, which I do in my class on the civil rights movement. I have a lot of immigrant students. And so I want them to know that life is better for you because this group suffered, were brought here in chains and fought a struggle to make America more equal. But I do not expect, nor would I want to see people that left their native land to come to a country do anything but appreciate the land that took them in and gave them an opportunity. That's why the immigrants that we're talking about are coming here. And so it's rather foolish of Joy Reid or any Black person to think that immigrants come here and they see all kind of opportunity to join us in commiserating over the lack of opportunity. They're not going to do that. In fact, what they're going to do is pool their money and buy a corner store. And then you're going to be buying from them, just like you bought from the Jews, just like you bought from the Latinos, just like you bought from the Asians, just like we buy now from the Arabs. And whatever immigrant group comes in, they're going to look at our community and they're going to say, well, they wear all that hair. Somebody's got to sell it to them. And in 2 weeks of being here, they'll have a hair business and you'll be going in there getting hair from them. And so my point is this. A foolish analysis will lead you to a foolish place. And so we don't get angry with immigrants for respecting the country that they came to and are trying their best to make a go of it in. And in fact, we should take some of their approach and do likewise. And even though our history is different, and one day I'll talk to you about my position on reparations, I do support reparations, as I believe that since slavery is one of the original sins of America, I think America has to pay its debt. But I think also once reparations are established, like any other agreement, we would be giving up our right to a grievance. And that's something we have to talk about. And so I disagree strongly with Eddie Glaude. I disagree with many of these professors. And incidentally, if they were really, really serious about, if they taught at Howard or Morehouse or Fisk or Talladega or Tuskegee, and they were wrestling with Black young people every day and teaching young Black people and engaging young Black people, I would have a lot more respect for their positions. But what I have always had a problem with is these people who say they're in the tradition of W.E.B. Du Bois, and their greatest goal is to teach in white institutions. And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But you cannot say you're in the tradition of Du Bois. You can't be this Malcolm X or Dr. King-like spokesperson. You can't even be an E. Franklin Frazier-like spokesperson if your work is not with Black people. And I'm sorry, I went to Princeton Seminary. I took classes at the university. If you're teaching at Princeton, Harvard, Yale, you're not teaching Black students. You're teaching a few because there's not that many Black students there. Okay, so come off of it. Okay, America's done pretty well by you, and it continues to do pretty good by you. And we need to encourage young people to try to be all that you became. And I know you did it by hard work. You did it by studying. You did it by being willing to go up to Bowdoin College in Maine and that isolation, and you paid your dues. And you have succeeded wildly. And I salute you and respect you for that. Stop running the race hustler line. It's incompatible with reality. Well, I made it, but I've got to speak for the rest. We don't need you to do that. Just play your role, teach at Princeton. When you get some Black students there, encourage them, help them, teach them about Black excellence, and maybe they will go on to become that NAACP lawyer. Maybe they'll go on to become that community-based pastor or that principal of a charter school or public school. Maybe they'll go on to become the people in the community that are leading everyday people. Unfortunately, Black people, you put your trust too much in celebrity. You put your trust too much in people who don't live like you. Jay-Z and Beyonce don't live like you. These professors are not struggling like you. So why? I mean, it just defies logic. We should be proud of them. I'm not tearing Brother Glaude down by any stretch of the imagination because he's a great man and a great success. But you undermine that when you come with this sort of inauthentic outrage that you have shown about America. America is, it is what it is. It's a great country, and Black people have made tremendous progress in this country because of our struggle. And we will continue to make further progress if we continue to teach hope to our children and not teach them that they can't succeed. And if you can succeed and you were born in the 60s, if Jesse Jackson Jr., who was born in the 60s, can succeed, if Jesse Jackson Sr. can succeed, if Kamala Harris can succeed, if she can come through Howard and people like oh boy, our sister, our Republican sister, her name escapes me right now. But anyway, we have enough success stories. Okay, we have success stories, and we should build on that success. Now, let's go to Joy Reid for a second, because, you know, part of what I'm concerned about on this left, well, I'll let you listen. This is Joy Reid from MSNBC.
I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any Black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure Black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends, because I don't think they're coming. But yeah, I think save Black women, prioritize Black men, and prioritize Black communities, Black businesses, and that. And, you know, the Black spaces, but Save America, Save the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, that is certainly welcome news. I want to just say that if that's Joy Reid's current perspective, I'll take it because I have been saying for several years, and anyone who has even a cursory understanding of history, is that Black people will never go anywhere with Black men and Black women estranged from each other. And I'm happy to hear Joy Reid say that her fascination with feminism, her thinking that she had more in common with white feminist women than her own Black man and Black men, was was ill-conceived, and that she said, now I'm going to focus on saving Black women and prioritizing Black men and building Black businesses, the Black community. And you see, that's what Black centrists, Black people with common sense, Black people in the middle do. They don't get caught up in the rhetoric of either extreme perspective, and they think about what's in our best interest. And I will say this, that America is not our number one problem. America has been a problem. It was a problem for our ancestors when they were kidnapped and brought here and enslaved, but they fought through that, through faith and family and perseverance. They fought through that. They fought, they survived first. They built their churches and they held on to their African faiths, and they made it through. Fought in the Civil War, received freedom, stepped forward, and even with the setback of the ending of Reconstruction, our people persevered through the 100-year dark night of Jim Crow. We always fought. There's always an example of someone that stood up. And even though the formal civil rights movement, as we speak of it, starts around 1954 and 1955, history is replete of Black people who stood up during that 100 years and said, no, we're going to hold on to each other. We're going to hold on to faith, and we're going to press forward. And we have done that incredibly in this country, but it was, in my view, the left-wing policies of the 1960s that started the eventual destruction of the Black family. And of course, postmodernism in the 80s, and certainly with the advent of the internet and our embracing of left-wing ideology, socialism, prioritizing that, meaning that's these identities. This whole thing about postmodernism is that it creates and introduces things into the community that you don't even really understand. And one of the concepts of postmodernism is that there's no objective truth. And I want you to think about that. I talk about that all the time, because if there's no objective truth, I'm not speaking to you now. I'm on a beach in Miami. If there's no objective truth, I don't have on a black sweater. My sweater's green. Well, no, you don't see this red sweater? Well, you say, no, it's black. But that doesn't work, because there's no objective truth. I'm declaring, because I feel it's red. It's not black, okay? And that lack of clarity. Also, this intersectionality. Listen, intersectionality is a great legal concept. I understand its history. I understand how it was used. I get it. One of my mentors, okay, and I've had many in life, Derek Bell, okay, he was a great, great friend of mine and a mentor. I understand intersectionality, but when you are as fragile as we are as a people in terms of our ability to overcome the obstacles we faced, once you start prioritizing and engaging in this obsession with all of these different identities, you might end up doing just what Joy Reid has been doing. She has leaned more into her identity as a woman, and she thought she had a lot more in common with white women. But as you just heard her, she said that she was going to retire from that and come back home. And Black men, sometimes we go off the reservation. Sometimes Black women go off the reservation. But let me tell you something. In America, the thing that's holding Black folks back is, number one, Booker T. Washington Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you name it. John Johnson, I mean, you name it. Reginald Lewis. All of these men and women have given us the blueprint. We have to work hard. We have to save. We have to stop getting so many divorces. Divorce means poverty. We have to keep our families together, bring our people together, support Black institutions, support Black stores, build Black stores. And then when we build Black stores, you brothers in the community, you don't go in there with a pistol and make the family lie down on the floor and blow their brains out over a few filthy dollars. See, this is what's holding us back. And it really burns me up to see people that obsess over the America's not changed. America's going backwards. Are you crazy? Do you see where we are today in this country? Now, because we don't succeed and we can't come together, that is an in-house problem. But to try and create a reality that is quantifiably untrue, that America has made no progress, it's just foolish. And we're wasting time. And that's why when I see people saying on the internet that the only reason Kamala Harris lost is because of Donald Trump and racism and misogyny, it's that same kind of lazy analysis that just doesn't make sense. Okay? It's literally putting your head in the sand and ignoring the reality. The reality of America and the Black community is that our struggle, our perseverance, our excellence over the course of the last 300 years, 300 plus years, has made America a different place. It went kicking and screaming, but because of our courageous ancestors, because of Sister Fannie Lou, because of Marian Anderson, because of Paul Robeson, America has become a better place. And we need to name that success. We need to honor them and say that they were not failures. Bishop Richard Allen and Absalom Jones were not failures. Martin and Malcolm were not failures. Mr. Muhammad was not a failure. Daddy Grace was not a failure. These folks literally moved us down the field and changed the country. And so let's honor them. If we fail, let's get in the huddle and figure out why we failed. I think Joy Reid saying that she's coming back home. That's a good thing. And coming back home, don't bring that trash into the house. You got to leave some of this postmodernism. Postmodernism is why these young people have identity issues. And I'll tell you, I talk to students every day. And my class always starts with some student invariably getting up and saying that their life in America is harder, that it's more difficult for young people today than it has ever been for Black folks in history. And this is a person sitting in a college classroom, probably with a $1,400 iPhone, $200 sneakers, at least $150. Okay, never fails. $80 jeans, graphic tees and hoodies. Sometimes they cost $60, $70, $80, $100. And they will say to you with a straight face that my life, and I look into their young eyes and I know they believe it. They believe it, first of all, because they have no historical knowledge, okay? Because they're autodidacts. They They look at something on the internet, the algorithms take them to more and more things like that. So they have no critical thinking skills. They have no basic understanding of Black history. And so when they say that, they really, really mean that. Just like they say, I want to be a capitalist. I mean, I want to be a socialist. The capitalist system is a terrible system with all of those clothes on that are only possible through capitalism. And I don't blame them, because when professors make 300,000 and 400,000 and 500,000 and live in the Four Seasons Hotel, and they're running around telling people that socialism is the best system, then that kind of cognitive dissonance or that kind of madness that you hear from well-educated professors is only bound to trickle down to the common man, and particularly the students that sit under them. And so I welcome Joy Reid, because I was becoming very upset with Joy Reid. She had a psychiatrist or psychologist on the other day, and after the election, I'm going to take a quick break, and I want you to hear that, because I really want you to hear. Listen, they have their say, they have their platform, and we have to have people in the Black community that will follow up, come behind them, unpack, deconstruct this stuff, because it's brainwashing us, it's dividing us, and it will ultimately kill us. I'm Reverend Conrad Tillard. You're listening to Conversations with Conrad. Let's go back and listen to a little Marvin during this break. All right? Thank you so much. Please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel so that we can continue to bring you this kind of hard-hitting analysis. All right? Let's listen to Brother Marvin Gaye as we take a quick break.
People, you know, we've got to find a way to bring some understanding. Yes, pick it nice, pick it size, even if maybe with brutality. Talk to me, so you can see what's going on, what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Wanna know what's going on? All right. Oh, baby. What's going on, baby? Wanna know, I want to know, baby. What's going on? Na. I wanna know what's going on, baby. Yes, I wanna know what's going on right now, people. Oh, what's going on, brother? Tell me, yeah, what's going on?
Okay, let's come back. You're listening to Conversations with Conrad. I'm your host, Reverend Conrad Tillard. And as always, we come to you not from the right, but nor do we come to you from the left. We come to you straight down the middle from a common sense perspective. And I want to get into a little bit more of this analysis today. Dr. Amanda Calhoun, I don't know a lot about her. I know that she is either at Yale or is Yale affiliated. Let's listen to what Dr. Calhoun said on Joy Reid's show. I want to go into this. This is very important that we talk about this. Let's go to screen share. All right. All right, this is the Joy Reid show from last week.
When you voted that way, do you recommend just from a psychological?
All right, let's go.
Know someone voted that way. Do you recommend just from a psychological standpoint being around them? We got the holidays coming up.
So I love that you asked this question because, you know, there is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
Okay, now
you know someone voted that way.
Let me stop this because again, this is outrageous. That you would have saying to young people, God only knows what she tells her students. First of all, this is what's wrong with young people today. All right. A young man, I was engaging in a back and forth with him yesterday on a political issue, and he said, "You seem very upset." I said, "No, I'm not upset at all." He said, "I don't know. I'm sorry." He was being sarcastic that I triggered you. And we were debating over this issue, this word woke, which of course you already know. I have no respect for or confidence in that word and what it has come to mean in society today contextually. But I said to him, no, I'm not the least bit upset. And I said, another word that our ancestors didn't use was triggered, okay? And so, you know, one of the reasons why our young people are struggling today, why the suicide rate, mental illness is up, is because they live in a society where professors tell them things that Black people would never have told young people in the past. And no professor should ever tell any young person. First of all, you don't even have any business telling a young person that they should not go see their family for Thanksgiving, or that it's okay. It's okay from your perspective. And the authority that you hold over those young people in the classroom is probably great. And your title gives the impression that if you say it, it's the gospel truth. But for those of us who've been around a while, we understand that what you said is unfortunate. The best thing you could say about it is that it's unfortunate. The probably in the middle, I would say it's demented, and at the end, I would say it's fundamentally evil. To try and create distance between a young person and their family is irresponsible, and again, it borders on evil, because, you know, first of all, you should teach young people as citizens that every citizen has one vote, okay? And my my vote is my vote. Your vote is yours. I can't tell you who to vote for in that booth. I can tell you, as I've told my congregations over the years, I said, I'll never tell you who to vote for, but I don't mind telling you who I'm voting for, okay? The civil rights movement was not about anybody voting a certain way. It was about Black people exercising their franchise to vote. But you certainly don't want to teach young people that because someone voted in a way that appealed to their own consciousness, that you use that to alienate a young person from their family. See, that's why I say not from the right, not from the left like this professor, okay? Only people on the left would tell people, and maybe some extremists on the right. You've got people living in cults and all kind of communes on the right and left. And they tell you this is more important than anything else. If your family rejects this, you reject them. And the average Black grandmother or grandfather would tell you that's utter foolishness. And I'm naming it. That's what you all say. I'm going to use your phraseology. I'm naming it as foolishness, highly irresponsible for any college professor to even delve in that area, okay? And to even offer advice. You're not a minister. What moral and ethical training do you have? What would make you qualified to tell a young person that if their parent or grandparent or family members voted differently, that family should be split and that they should stay away from their family members? You're not even teaching them good civics, because if you were teaching them good civics, you would tell them that, hey, everybody has their own opinion and everyone can vote for who they want to vote for. And I would go further to say, Black folks, you don't have any business falling out with your family over this election. If you're not speaking to your husband, sister, because you were for Kamala and he was for Trump, or Kamala and he was for Trump, or Jill Stern, or Jill Stein. Look, let's stop, okay? Every citizen has one vote. You vote for who you want to vote for. I vote for who I want to vote for, okay? And you saw that yesterday. You know, while Black folks are angry with each other, silly people on Facebook, please listen to me. If you don't like my views and we are friends, please unfriend me, okay? Because first of all, if you unfriend me for my views, you've never been a friend of mine. And I'm not going to miss you one bit. That is the emptiest threat in the world. If you voted for Trump, or if you take this position, you can unfriend me now. Let me tell you something. If that's what you want to do, that's fine, okay? I will never allow any friend of mine to govern our relationship by saying I can't have my own opinions. That's not a real friendship. That's a substance-less friendship. I'm not in 7th grade. I didn't do that in 7th grade, okay? I'm certainly not going to do it at 60 years. If you have an opinion, I respect your right to an opinion. You have to respect mine. And if you don't, I'm sorry, okay? Don't let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you, okay? And you saw yesterday how Biden and Trump and the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, after a year of acrimony, after really 4 years of acrimony, accusations, recriminations, investigations. Well, First Lady Melania didn't go. Reports was that she was just too upset by what she thought to be politically motivated investigations. I think they went into her panty drawer and pulled everything out, and she just couldn't bring herself to do it. Joe Biden was there. But you saw Donald Trump and the President and the First Lady engage in civility, Joe Biden promised, and that was great. And I think he modeled for Trump in that instance. This is this is how we have the peaceful transfer of power. I don't think Trump had a full understanding of our political institutions back in 2020. And Joe Biden certainly modeled for him yesterday what I hope he will do in 4 years if the Democrats ultimately win back the White House. But it was very civil. It was two statesmen sitting down as they should. And my question to Black people is, if these men who fought each other, if these men who went toe to toe for 4 years, insulted each other, did all manner of things to each other publicly, insulted each other's families, did all kinds of things, and yet they could sit down, shake hands. One agreed to brief the incoming president and help in any way that he could. And the incoming president, to his credit, sat there graciously and thanked the president of the United States. Why can't Black people do that? I mean, we can have differences of opinion. We can even argue and fight intellectually. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to sit down. What would a husband and wife benefit from not speaking to each other over a political election? Kamala's not going to leave her husband, okay? She and her husband and family are going to be together. Why would you destroy your family because somebody in your household had a different viewpoint? See, these are the kinds of things when you stay in the middle and you focus on common sense, you generally speaking will not give in to those kinds of impulses. But when you're ideological, either on the right or the left, when the truth or real life does not comport with my ideology, then the only thing I can do is get angry, fight, not speak to people, and essentially that's the viewpoint of a very immature person. And if we do that as Black people, it's an immature people. I'm going to close today looking at the news largely today. I woke up this morning and there was a lot of, there was a lot of consternation. There was a lot of back and forth. Trump has sort of rolled out some of the members of his cabinet. And as a result of that, some folks are really, really upset. Yesterday, of course, the Republicans got together and picked their speaker. He's a more moderate Republican, and either in a backlash or what he intended to do all the time, Trump started appointing folks that I think he believes will be loyal to him. Presidential appointments require loyalty. Mayor Adams in New York is not, nor did Barack Obama, appoint anybody that would not be loyal to him. Political loyalty is not like following a cult leader. It's a very different kind of reality. But no one is going to appoint someone to a cabinet level position unless they know that person is loyal. That's just politics. I don't necessarily think that Trump's choices are my choices, but I didn't win the presidency. He is going to appoint people to office that he feels are loyal. I don't know what he sees in Matt Gaetz. I have no idea. I don't know why he would pick him. He's a very controversial person. Maybe he picked him for his own reasons. I don't know. But I do know this, that when they say he's not qualified, he's a lawyer. When they say it's a sycophantic pick, I would say, don't see, especially historians, they know the difference, okay? You know, Eddie Glaude and other historians, looks like I got some hammering going on above my head. I'm almost finished. Let me just get this out. John F. Kennedy appointed his brother Bobby, the Attorney General of the United States, okay? Case closed, okay? If you appoint your little brother to be the Attorney General, then anybody can appoint anybody, okay? That is the clearest indication that when you're the president, you can do what you want to do. And in this case, Joe Kennedy, their dad, told him to appoint his brother Bobby to become the Attorney General, and he was. And Bobby Kennedy was vicious against Dr. King and members of the civil rights movement, but he was the president's brother. In fact, one of the things that helped John F. Kennedy win the election in 1960 was that Dr. King was in jail. He called Coretta Scott King and inquired about Dr. King. It eventually got back to Daddy King and the black newspapers. But here's an important part. John F. Kennedy only picked up that phone to call Dr. King when his brother and other aides were downstairs. When Bobby got back upstairs, he was furious that John Kennedy had reached out to Dr. Martin Luther King. That's a fact of history, another day, another time. So Trump has made some controversial picks. But let me just say what I wanted to say lastly about that is this. You know, he is the president, and you know, elections have consequences. I think a great man said that. I think this is Barack Obama. And you know, they're going to pick. He's going to pick who he wants to pick. If they get through the Senate, that's another thing. See, the more you know about checks and balances, you don't worry about that. I mean, these appointees have to be confirmed, or they can be put in office during recess appointments, but that's for a certain period of time. So at the end of the day, the checks and balances are in place. And if the Republicans decide that Matt Gaetz, who has been under investigation, he was under investigation for 3 years for sex trafficking. Now, he alleges that it was a vindictive person against him and that he proclaimed his innocence. And truly, 3 years after, no criminal charges were brought against him. I don't know. I don't argue about things for which I do not have knowledge. But I do know this, that when I wake up and I listen to John Bolton, and John Bolton, as far as I'm concerned, and the neocons that associate with John Bolton, the people who believe in America interventionism, strength through peace, neocolonialism. That's what neocon means. And when I hear people like John Bolton decry President Trump's picks, then I feel good. And that one of the greatest things that upset me during Kamala Harris's campaign is for her to go around with Liz Cheney. And it really pissed me off that the media was saying down the stretch that Trump, and I heard black reporters and influencers repeating this lie, that Trump said he wanted to assassinate or put Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad. He did not say that. He simply said, and he was referring to Liz Cheney and other neocons, like her murderous father, that they love to create wars. They love to kill people. They love to lead America into this adventurism. Hundreds and thousands, millions of people died during the Gulf War, which was a war started based upon a lie. He said, since they love to fight so much, let's see how she would react with 9 guns confronting her. And I think that's a fair position. And that's one of the things that I do like about President-elect Donald J. Trump. He has consistently said that we've got to stop these wars. I'm going to look at him and see if he does. I know in his first term he did, and I want to make sure he does it in this term. But when I saw Kamala Harris with Liz Cheney, and I hear like people like John Bolton saying that Tulsi Gabbard is wholly unqualified to be over the intelligence community, that makes me feel good, because I've heard Tulsi Gabbard, and I've heard even Matt Gaetz, and I've heard many people that would make strange bedfellows with Black people say that these institutions like the FBI, the CIA, and many of these intelligence institutions, which you know have killed people, have assassinated people, and have destroyed Black lives, you know this is true. And so anybody suspicious of these organizations, I at least want to hear what they have to say. Listen, I'm out of here today. I'm sorry for what's going on above my head, but I thank you for listening. Please tune in, please like, please share, and help other folks know that we're here. Conversations, Conrad, twice a week. Have a great afternoon. God bless.